So I was, I just got an email, and apparently, was shed light upon this particular um, website. That apparently they're like meat and potatoes, as you can see right here. Is this little Facebook fan page? Okay. Um, you know, it's clear as day. I mean, I don't think anybody that's a dog named Jim Cleary putting all these asinine little commentaries and japing at people's mugshots and crappiest moments is a mere coincidence, and I don't think that there's really that much of like a dedicated like fan following for anything this particular nature. But yeah, there's like a few on here. Then I noticed when I was looking through them, like just sitting there and making a jest of it. It's pretty clear as day evident. You know what's transpiring. It's obviously like an extortion base. Oh, look, um, there you go. It's like another one. Like people aren't ridiculous like that. I'm sure there's a couple jackasses that live in particular counties or whatever, doing these things, thinking this is cool, because like they've never been arrested or whatever. I mean, I get the whole serial killer stalker shit. I understand. Oh, it's Jeffrey Dahmer. Let's fucking look at all this stupid shit and Charles Manson. Like that makes sense because I could understand. Like some dude who brainwashed a bunch of kids into killing people being something of like a shock factor. Why people would be interested. I was when I was watching crime, CSI and all those other like the new detectives and all that stuff on the crime TV or whatever. But um, just a little rundown here. It's like, okay, you click one of these banner ads, okay, and you click it, and you look and you can notice like right away like they got some ads, and this one kind of just triggered right away. I knew it was Google AdSense for the most part because they're the ones who frequently advocate like the Truth Finder. It's one of their partners. It doesn't take very long to to see it. They don't have a whole lot of code on the page, so it's like and there's their their ID. Now this actually violates Google AdSense policies. Not that I feel like I'm you know looking to adhere or conform to them being like some like super supreme ruler of the world, but that's what they're trying to like pass themselves off as, their little $110 billion you know conglomerate corporation that doesn't give people names because we're not human, and they don't entitle us to unless you're a corporation. You're not worth a fuck, apparently. Well, corporations are fake, made up things, just like our monetary, system. So whatever, until you realize people are worth a shit, you motherfuckers got to go. But their little policy, when you look at it, they got all kinds of little violations just within the confines of their own policy. Um, let's see here. Is it the counter policies? It's like when I clicked it, once I go to their little content policies and you look at all the formalities and stuff, um, it violated quite a few. The ones that I pulled up here, just basics, like adult themes. It can't place it on sites that appear to be appropriate for a general audience. Because Facebook's supposedly like it's like a family environment, okay, and you're putting a bunch of really kind of like explicit content. People getting arrested for an array of things: prostitution, gambling, assault, battery, all that shit. So that's not a good thing. Dangerous or derogatory content um, harasses, intimidates. Yeah, that's the sole purpose of this particular entity, and they're monetizing through Google. So this is where we run into a little bit of a problem, okay? Because they apparently the reason that nobody can just go outright and just sue the ever loving crap out of Google for these particular instances occurring, who is obviously monetizing with their affiliate partners, and putting this type of shit into people's Google index, and then when you go and you complain about it, they tell you that these entities are protected by the First Amendment, um, and that they're just some kind of like neutral third party. Well, the difference between these assholes And say like, Cox Communications, that's providing an internet service of sorts, is pretty clear as day that Cox isn't going around middlemaning different affiliate ad networks and like monetizing in like multitudes of different ways, like with AdWords and with these, AdSense. This is a huge problem. I notice a lot of times people like to seem to like focus their attention on combating, the what is it, the Freedom of Information Act or whatever, um, or sunshine laws and a couple other things. It's not about attacking something that takes away from the journalists and stuff. It's about attacking this because they don't deserve to be looked upon as an internet service provider, because they're not. Because they're obviously, even if they're not the ones producing the content, they're manipulating the market based upon the way that they manipulate the advertising and their affiliate partners. See, because if it doesn't cater to those particular partners, then they won't allow that content. So even if they're not directly producing the content, they're obviously controlling the market and manipulating it in such a manner that they are still controlling the flow and who gains exposure with, their determining factors of a search engine. So therefore, they're not just a internet service provider that is just some, entity that deserves any formality of transparency. So clearly this needs change. There needs to be somebody in here to regulate this, because that is a major problem in the world today, is that these motherfuckers can do shit like this. Now, will they remove this content if I report it? Who knows? I mean, they obviously don't like me to some degree, because, I'm attempting to basically put the truth out there. But, if I'm not me, then I'll be someone else. I'll bombard them until they do and hit them with everything, and they will eventually succumb. But that's just one ad. You know what I mean? What really needs to happen is we need some legislative, power and a little bit more attention upon this particular. The problem is the 6 major entities that the news networks are, funded by. Big companies like Warner Brothers and Disney and a couple other ones, like they're obviously, in Google's pocket as well. So it's pretty damn hard to get the word out there when they're the one controlling the word, right? But yeah, so I'm gonna report those motherfuckers right there, because that's ridiculous. But plain as day, if they're the one being the advertiser for that they're obviously not somebody worthy of the 230 CDA.